The Village of Peoria Heights and the Emergency Management Agency are hosting a workshop next week all about the Outdoor Siren Network. And joining us here is Jason Marks. He's Peoria County's Director of Emergency Preparedness. Now, for viewers who may not know, what exactly are the outdoor warning sirens designed to do, and what kind of emergencies set them off?
Thanks for having me. So our outdoor warning sirens, they're designed to notify or alert people outside to seek shelter immediately, and then to, once they've sought that shelter, to identify what that may be, what emergency. And typically those emergencies for us here in Central Illinois is going to be a tornado. However, we could use that siren to notify somebody of a hazardous materials incident if that happened.
So something spills on the highway nearby that gives off some bad fumes, you might set off the siren.
Yeah, something of that nature, or we've got a couple areas in the county where there's a number of chemical facilities, and so maybe there was an incident at one of those facilities. To notify individuals within that jurisdiction or around that site, we might be able to set off that siren.
And I understand that many people, we've got some also other uses for the sirens, but I understand that there's also sort of an up and down tone, right, for national emergency?
Yeah, that's the second tone you'll hear when we do the test, and that tone has been designed for what we call Homeland Security or an issue of national defense. We might utilize that to notify the public.
And how does your team decide when to sound the sirens, especially when severe storms are moving quickly?
We have a couple different ways to determine that. First of all, we use a software system that when the warning has been issued by the Storm Prediction Center, our sirens will automatically activate as that warning's been initiated.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And explain how the coverage works across Peoria County and the rest of Central Illinois, especially in places where people might not hear them clearly.
In Peoria County, we have about 80 sirens scattered throughout the county. Between that and the city that we manage, other jurisdictions or other counties may not have that number, and they're primarily located in areas where there's either a large population or areas where people may gather outside, because again, as an outdoor warning network, we want to be able to notify those individuals.
Right, because if you're inside, you're already sheltered, and you've got access to a TV that might start going,
right, or a NOAA weather radio.
Exactly, or a NOAA weather radio, or even your phone.
Absolutely.
So for outdoors, the sirens exist for telling people to basically get out of here, get indoors, get to safety.
Correct. Seek shelter, and then immediately seek shelter, and then when you find that shelter, then you want to determine why are we seeking that shelter. And oftentimes, again, in Central Illinois, we recognize that's probably for a tornado, and hopefully we're aware of that weather before then.
And I imagine the tornadoes are really helpful, for instance, if someone's in an area where they don't have cell coverage and can't get one of those alerts, you've still got an analog option, as it were.
Absolutely. The siren's there. The NOAA weather radio is a great asset as well. So the sirens are just one additional way for us to notify the public. It's part of that redundancy to be alert.
And so what can attendees expect from this upcoming outdoor workshop?
What we're going to do at the workshop is we're going to take some time. We've got a map of where all the sirens are in the county. Individuals can see where these are located. We'll talk about some of the same things we've shared about seeking indoors when we see those sirens, the maintenance of the sirens, how they operate, the testing schedule, where we test our sirens. We do a live test the first Tuesday of every month, but we do an inaudible test every day. And then when we get that report back, we can look at the maintenance of the siren and see if it's functioning properly.
Makes a really, really low sound, and then it's like, oh, this one didn't go off.
Yeah, it's actually the tone that goes off is inaudible to not only human ears, but animals. And so we have a siren at Wildlife Prairie Park, someplace where people gather outside. And so in order to assure we don't bother those animals at night when that siren goes off, that tone is good.
All right. We'll have more information about how to access all of this and sign up on our website. If you or someone you know would like to join us on In the Know, go to 25newsnow.com/community. Follow the Features tab to In the Know and submit that form. More 25 News Midday is coming up after the break.